for the Planet of the Apes is the third and final installment of the rebooted Ape series that started in 2011. Now, this movie is about the final war between the last remaining humans on Earth and the evolved smarter apes led by Caesar, played by Andy Serkis, and the Colonel, played by Woody Harrelson for the humans. That's all I'm really gonna say for the plot of this movie, because even though you can look up the IMDb synopsis or watch the trailers and you think you have a general idea of where the movie's gonna go, it's really something you just have to experience. As far as the original Planet of the Apes movies, I've only seen the first one with Charlton Heston, and that's it. Really good classic movie, but as far as these new Planet of the Apes movies, not the Tim Burton one, but the one that came out in 2011, I loved that movie. Then Matt Reeves came along, and he kind of improved upon that already amazing movie with Dawn, and I love that movie too. And then this movie comes out, which I was already really pumped for, and this might be my favorite film of the entire year. I don't want to say that it is just right off the bat, because, you know, Logan and Baby Driver to consider, but holy crap, this movie was a complete surprise to me. Going in, I thought I had the plot figured out. It's gonna be more like a war film, a lot of battles and stuff. It's really not about that at all. What this movie actually is about is more drama, and I love that about this movie. Because sure, the action scenes when they happen, they are really well filmed. Matt Reeves did a perfect job directing those sequences. They're really intense, but really the meat of this movie comes from the characters that you're watching, the dialogue that they're saying, the way they interact with people, and the drama surrounding their storylines. The real tension that you feel from this movie, for the most part, all comes from the drama, not necessarily because, look, a gun's being fired over there, or an explosion just went off over there. What it really comes down to is this character has this ideology, but this character has this ideology. It's so riveting in that way. And I could talk for days about how wonderful the visual effects are. The motion capture is outstanding. There's like one shot in this movie that literally just made my mouth drop. And it's when there's an ape named Rocket. He's walking and like a sudden like flash of light shines on him. And he was wet looking, and it was also with the light. Oh my god, that was beautiful. There's several shots like that throughout too. I wasn't sure if I was still going to be amazed at how well done the motion capture was, since we've already been exposed to not just the other two Apes movies, but also a whole new world of impressive CGI. But this movie, it found a way to make me go, yeah, that is real. Holy crap, this is some of the best visual effects works you're going to see. And even though the visual effects are amazing, superbly well done, that's not the main thing that I was really into. I was really into the characters themselves, like Caesar, Andy Serkis. He needs a frickin' Oscar, okay? Gollum, King Kong, this. Oh my god, he is such a great actor, and he's been denied the Oscar that he deserves for like years now, and I'm really crossing my fingers. It's not going to happen, but I'm crossing my fingers that he at least gets some nomination this year, because this is one of the best performances you're going to see this year. Caesar is such a complicated character, not just because, look at how real he looks, because of what you've seen him go through in the past two movies and what he's going through now. He's going through this phase of he has no idea how to control the certain amount of hate that he has, and that was such a fascinating thing to see his character go through with this film. And it was also fascinating because you have the other two movies to build upon this. This is one of those perfect trilogies where each film builds upon the last. You can watch all of them in a row, and it's just this entire epic story where one film doesn't feel out of place with the other. And every character in this movie, not just Caesar, every character in this film, you can understand each characters' mindsets. You know exactly where they're at. This is one of those movies where it's not just good versus evil. It's good. There might be a little bit of bad in there though, and then there's bad, but really they're not entirely that bad. They just want to survive, pretty much. Which is why I really love the villain of Woody Harrelson, because deep down, he's doing some really bad things that you're seeing, but he's not entirely a bad dude. He's got his own story going on. He wants to survive with the humans. He wants to live. You can see where he's coming from, and you can see that he has an admiration for Caesar. They both kind of had admiration for each other, but at the end of the day, they're on opposite sides. I loved that kind of conflict in this film, because I was worried with the trailer that Woody Harrelson was going to be a two-dimensional bad guy because of just how he walks out like shaving his head, looking all sinister, like, please, don't be corny, don't be cheesy. he actually wasn't. He was actually pretty menacing at times, but you understood why. This movie, for the most part, is pretty bleak, pretty dour. There's a lot of emotion going on with this film. One of the most emotional experiences you're probably going to have the entire year. There's one scene in particular where you don't even hear any dialogue. You hear music, and you're just taken in by what the cinematography is capturing. And at that moment, you're like, oh my god, no dialogue was needed for that moment to make you feel something. And that's also a great thing on the cinematographer's part, and also Michael Giacchino, the guy who did the musical score for this film. This is one of his best. I'm a big fan of Michael Giacchino as of late because of his musical score. Like recently he did Spider-Man Homecoming, which was really good, Rogue One, Inside Out, bunch of stuff. And this is one of his best scores. He knocked it out of the park in this movie. There's so many moments where I was just taken in by the music. There's a lot of scenes with silence going on, and if you don't have the right music going on with it, you could be completely taken out of it. The music was actually investing you, and that's the best kind of musical score. Even though there is a lot of bleakness to take in with this film, this movie also has a good way of balancing the tone, where you have some comedic relief stuff, but it's not entirely distracting from the main point of the film, and it comes at a point where you really need it, where it feels necessary. For example, the character of Bad Ape, played by Steve Zahn. Now, this character could have gone south real fast, because his character is pretty much the comedic relief of this film, and you have everyone else really being serious, and they're in a dark place, and then you have Bad Ape, who's telling a couple jokes, being funny with his actions, and at first you might think, okay, this could go bad, let's see how it goes, but then you're like, oh, this guy is awesome. And Steve Zahn doing this kind of movie actually kind of surprised me, but hey, he did a really good job with the character of Bad Ape, and he actually kind of added something to the lore of this movie. And speaking of expanding the lore, we get introduced to this little girl, and she has the best interaction with Maurice in this movie, the orangutan. These two, not only did they work well together, were they really sweet together, but also her character added something more to the story. I've heard some complaints where people were saying like Bad Ape and the little girl, oh, they were really unnecessary to this movie, and I'm thinking, why would you say that? Like, their characters added something to the movie. No spoilers, but I was really surprised by a lot of this movie. This movie was really unpredictable, because you think, especially with the opening, like, I know exactly where this is gonna go, because this is one of those movies, but it's actually not. It goes in a direction where I was like, oh, I'm kind of surprised, but at the same time, this is still a really great story, and I'm still invested, so sure, it didn't go down the way I thought it would, but this is still great. And that's one of the best surprises that a movie can offer. You go in expecting one thing, but then you get something else that you were kind of surprised about, but you still love regardless. So guys, this movie is absolutely outstanding. So far, my favorite film of the summer, and I think it's gonna stay that way. Sorry, Christopher Nolan, but I don't see Dunkirk topping this movie. This is an emotional experience that offered me more than I was originally expecting. Most of the movies this summer have delivered exactly what I thought it would deliver. War for the Planet of the Apes is one of those exceptions where it delivered me something different that I loved, and I want people to see this movie more than the $56 million that it made this weekend. It needs to make more than that. A lot more people need to go see this movie. It is outstanding. I'm gonna give War for the Planet of the Apes an A+. The characters are outstanding. The visual effects are so superb. The best in the series and of movies now, pretty much. This entire movie was well realized. Matt Reeves knew exactly how to take this series from Rise into a completely different direction that worked so well. Guys, if you haven't seen War for the Planet of the Apes yet, what are you doing? Go see it. It is one of the best films you're gonna see this entire year. And the new Planet of the Apes trilogy, Rise, Dawn, and War, this is easily one of the best movie trilogies we have. It's up there with Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Toy Story, Bourne, and The Dark Knight. This is a trilogy where each film is incredible in their own right, but they also build upon each other as the story progresses. There's no movie that feels off considering the last movie. They all just line up into one epic story where if you watched back to back, you will be engrossed with the story that they created and how interesting and riveting it is. Guys, watch these movies, man. They're some of the best. But if you've seen War for the Planet of the Apes already, leave in the comments below what you thought of it. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.